Hello there. A few days ago I played round 9 in Lichess LoneWolf Open tournament, and well, as you can see on the board, this time I wasn't so successful. So yeah, well, let me show you the game. Maybe just as introduction, I can tell you right away that I played this game very poorly. I wasn't really in the mood of playing. I was very it now looks like I'm making excuses, but I'm just giving you the context. So I was very tired by my work. I had some professional obligations. I had to study for one exam I had to take regarding my job. So I wasn't in the best mood, but okay. It's not any excuse. I don't believe in excuses. It's all part of the sport. In order to play good chess, you need to have a good strength of will, good mood, good habits in order to be in your best shape and so on. So everything is part of the sport. Everything is part of chess. And my opponent was better and he won. So let's go to the game. He opened with e4. I responded e5. Knight f3, and I went for Petrov defense or Russian defense, which I often play. So I think this is a good opening. It's solid. It's played according to the principles of opening. It gives you active piece play, and I have to say there is this false reputation about Russian defense that it's somehow bordering on drawish. Well, maybe if you are 26 or 2700 strength, maybe you can say it's kind of drawish, but even then, if you just looked at the candidates tournaments, I think it was around 11 when Nepo, who is a new challenger for the World Championship, he played as black. He played the Russian defense, so exactly this, so what you see, and he won against very strong grandmaster. So I don't believe that Russian defense is something which is boring or drawish. It's played on all levels, and it usually results with very interesting and very dynamic games. So he decided to go for main line, so he just took knight takes c5, d6, just kicking away the knight goes back, and now I'm down a pawn. I have to compensate the material, so I also grab the pawn. He plays knight c3. Usually in this position people play lots of different stuff. Sometimes they play d3, sometimes they play d3, for example. Sometimes they play I don't know, even the queen here on e2, trying to somehow pin the knight. Then you usually respond with queen to e7. Sometimes they play here just going from the center, so d4, and I usually respond d5, also occupying the center. So there are many ways to deal with this position. And my opponent played knight c3, and this is the move I play as white also. So when I face the Petrov, I go for this kind of attack. I am not sure about the name. Maybe I can just look at it. It's Nimtsevich. Yes, Nimtsevich attack. So this is called Nimtsevich attack. Okay, whatever. I take the knight, so there is no good reason. It doesn't make any sense to go back with my knight now once my knight is here. So I just take, and well, one of the ideas is to bring the other knight on f6, because I will most likely castle short, and then this knight will be good here. So this is just an idea, which sometimes happen. D takes c3. Of course, he wants to take with the d pawn. Now he's opening his queen, but more important, he's releasing his bishop. So this is usually played. Although b takes c3 is also a variation, which is played with this idea. So to have the pawn in the center, which is very strong. So both moves are played. He played d takes c3, bishop to e7. Now I'm just developing my bishop and preparing to castle. h3 here. Okay, a logical prophylactic move. He wants to stop me for playing bishop g4, pinning the knight. So I think it's okay move, especially if you are white. You don't lose much if you play h3. If you are black, then you have to think carefully about playing moves like a6 or h6, because as a black you cannot afford to just Usually you cannot afford to make this kind of prophylactic moves because you are as a black, you always lack in development, so you need to think very carefully, do you want to give your opponent a tempo by playing this kind of moves. But if you are white, it's okay. So I think this move is perfectly fine for white. I castled, he played bishop d3. Now he's developing his bishop on a very logical square. Knight d7. Okay, so now in this position I have to think what do I want to develop first. So there are several plans here. Well, one is to put the rook on e-file, another is to bring the bishop out. Of course, not here at this moment, and I have to think about knight. So there are plenty of opportunities here and plenty of ways to play it. I could go for something like this, for example. I could go maybe even c5 in some, and then pushing this pawn and then putting my knight behind the c pawn. This is also one idea, one variation which could be played. I could try to develop my bishop before my knight. So okay, this square is taken, this one is taken, so maybe bishop here on e6, why not? And then I'm still leaving d7 for my knight. Or I could put the knight here, or I could put the knight here. So many options here, and I choose knight to d7. It's the option which is mostly played, I believe. Let me just check the book. Yes, knight d7 is, except there is in fact there is only one game in the database, and the knight d7 was played. But I just know this for other games, that this idea, like I said, putting the knight here, yes, I am temporarily blocking the bishop, but it doesn't matter because in the next move this knight will go to some active square. So it's a usual move order in the Petrov defense, so I think it's okay. He castled here, which is logical. And now I have to decide what to do with my knight. And I played knight c5. And let me just see in the book, is this position? Yes, this position was reached before. So in the same game, Arapovic versus Pandurevic. Okay. So this move is also, this idea rather, is often met. So this knight from d7 can go to f6, or it can go to c5. These two ideas are very common. So I saw it probably in some of the master games or on YouTube. I don't know where, but I just remember that I know this idea. Bishop c4 now. Okay, of course I'm attacking his bishop here. So he doesn't want to give me his bishop pair just so easily, and he played bishop c4. And now this is the first critical position. I mean, it was critical for me because I made a mistake here. So let's assess this position. What are my problems here? What are my goals here? So the bishop on c8 is obviously not developed, and it has a nice diagonal to be developed. So I need to think how to develop this bishop. So this is the idea. And I think the logical way, the correct way to continue would be to just develop bishop on f5. This is very active square for this bishop, hitting this diagonal. If it is okay, maybe it can be attacked, but it doesn't matter. I can escape wherever. So I think this bishop here is a very good option. Maybe even h6 later, then I can tuck my bishop back if I want to do this. So this is the way to put the bishop. So I think this is the correct move. Okay. I don't see this position in the database, so I don't know. I don't want to turn the engine on. So I think this is the most logical move, and then I can just proceed by putting my rook on the e-file, maybe play h6 to have the escape square for my bishop. And another idea in Petrov very common is to put your bishop on f6. So if your knight is not on f6, then your bishop can be on f6, and then you have two bishop pairs with way cutting all over through the center. You can see there are no pawns in the center, and then your bishops are controlling all the important central squares. So I think the correct plan, let me summarize, the correct plan here was to play f5, and then maybe this bishop to f6, maybe h6, and the rook to e8. And then maybe later even queen here, and then bring the other rook. It depends how the game would go. But something like this would be the correct plan. And for some reason, I was very impatient. Like I said, I wasn't really in the mood of playing. So I went for something impatient, which will make the game maybe more dynamic, more interesting, but worse for me in any case. So I played bishop to e6. I wanted to exchange this bishop. And he took the bishop. And now again, I could take with the knight, but I decided to take with the f-pawn. And this is a mistake I made several times in my games, especially in blitz games, rapid games, but also in long games, that I want to have this rook this rook on the f file artificially activated. So now I'm, let's say, building some kind of attack. So for example, I could bring my bishop here, this rook is watching here, maybe this knight. So this is kind of attack, but this attack doesn't have any prospect because I don't have a forced variation in which I can do something. So this attack looks okay, promising, but in fact it's not. And what I'm left is with is a very weak e6 pawn and very weak king. So my king is exposed over this diagonal. This pawn is weak. The only way to make this pawn not weak is to push it, but then I have light square weakness, and this is what will happen in the game. So this was a wrong choice for me. So instead of this and having a good game, I played this bishop to e6 and took with the pawn. And now my problems begin. So rook to e1, immediately attacking my weak pawn, e5, and now I have to calculate what to do about this, because you can see that before e5 I had to calculate this obviously. So you can see that if he comes with queen on d5, he's giving check, and he's simultaneously attacking my undefended. Sorry, it's not undefended, but it could be. It can be very easily undefended pawn on a b7. It is defended currently by the knight, but he can just play. Sorry. He can just play pawn to b4, kick away my knight, and then grab this pawn. So I had to think about this, and I think I did found even a solution to this. Let me just remember, what did I calculate? I know I did found a solution. So if he does check, I have to move away. If he plays this. Okay, sorry, I had to think about it a little bit more, so I'm cutting. I cut some part of the video. So this is what I was thinking. Now I remembered. So if e5, then if he now gives me a check, I have to retreat. If he attacks my knight, I can just play c6, and now he has to move away his queen, and I have a time to move my knight wherever I want. Okay. So this was the idea. So in this position, I did calculate that I thought that it's safe for me to play e5, because if he goes for this check and double attack the pawn, I can tuck away. I can step away with my king. If he attacks my knight, then I can play c6. So I saw this in my head during the game, and then I decided that e5 is a safe move to play, and I did play e5. But I didn't calculate this well enough, because when you calculate a variation, you always have to ask yourself, you always have to calculate different move orders. So my calculation was like this: e5, check, b4, c6, and I'm safe. This was my calculation. But what about different move order? And this is what happened in the game. So e5, and now instead of giving check, he played b4 queen to d5. So I didn't calculate this. So this was a bit of surprise for me. So now I have to encounter this threat, because if I now move my knight somewhere, say here, then I'm just losing this pawn. So I have to improvise. I didn't see this, so now I play knight to e6. So now when he comes to d5, at least it's not a check. And then I can maybe think about how to defend this pawn. And in fact, I did see this here. So I saw when if I play knight to e6. He comes with the queen, that I have this queen to c8 move, protecting both knight and my pawn. So I saw it after he played b4, so in this position. Okay, so I played knight e6, he went for queen d7 and queen c4, c8. So this is, now I'm covering both of these pieces, but you can see how much trouble I am right now because of my this f takes e6 nonsense. So you can see, like I said, the dark squares are very weak. Now my knight is pinned, my queen is overloaded, it defends two weak squares in my camp, very important squares. My bishop is not doing also well, so you can see that suddenly I'm in a big trouble. Just few moves after f6, so see how quick it was. So he took, I took with f, and immediately zap, immediately problems. So just 3 moves later, I'm in big problem. So you can see how bad this move was. F takes e6. Okay, knight g5. Now he's well, he's now going very aggressively because my king is weak. He's now attacking my pinned piece. Of course, always the recipe when the piece is pinned, just pile up on this piece, attack this piece with all means possible. So he's doing correct thing, attacking it, and he's now coming closer to my king and he wants to checkmate me. So I don't have much choice, I have to eliminate this knight. So he now, I have to give a bishop for a knight, he takes it back, of course, and now I'm sidestepping with my king, just wanting to unpin this piece because it's very unpleasant here. Bishop to h4 now, because you can see that once I stepped away with my king, then now his bishop is attacked, so he has to move his bishop away, and now I'm trying to get some counterplay on my own. And in fact, it was him in this position who didn't play very carefully, so he allowed me to untangle this position. And I think I didn't analyze this too deep, but I think this knight to g5 was actually a mistake, because he allowed me first to exchange some pieces, and I am lacking in development, I have less space, so the exchange of pieces favors me. He's the attacking side, so it favors me to eliminate the attackers. So I think he did me a favor by playing this knight to g5 here. Sorry. So he played knight to g5, and I think this actually, he gave me a favor, because especially now with my king to h8, I'm doing two things. So I'm unpinning the knight, but also with the tempo. So he allowed me to unpin with the tempo. So I think for several reasons this knight g5 was not a good move. So first I exchange, and then I unpin with tempo. And then he has to move away, and now I'm the one who is going forward. And I think in this position is pretty much equal in the evaluation. I did run the engine right after the game, but now I don't want to run. I know some ideas of the engine, but I believe this is equal. I don't want to ruin this analysis with the engine, so let's just say it's about equal here. So I did manage to untangle, and now he played queen to e4, and I think I took some time for the next move. Let me just see how much time. Yes, you can see 22. Okay, 5 minutes. So I took 5 minutes, which is lots of time, since this is 30-minute game. So I took 5 minutes on this move because this was just calling for some kind of tactics, some kind of sacrifice. So this is hanging. I mean, it's not hanging, but this is capturable. I have this coming. I have this. So I was thinking there must be something, and I calculated: can I take this and somehow exploit the fact that his king is exposed after he takes back? Can I sacrifice and then somehow bring my other pieces in the attack? Can I do something crazy? Can I sack the queen maybe? Can I profit on this? Can I try to move his defender away, and then f2 is undefended? Then can I exploit this? So I had many things to calculate, and I had this strong feeling that there must be a tactics here. All my pieces are near the opponent king, There must be some kind of tactic, and this bishop is unprotected. But I didn't see the tactic, and I played rook to b8, just covering this pawn, because he's attacking this pawn, and if my queen ever moves, I was considering queen to f5, then my pawn is hanging, so I just played rook to b8, just a passive move, because I couldn't find a tactic here. But in fact there was a tactic, so I was right, my intuition was right. There is a tactics here hidden, so my intuition was right, but my calculation skills and pattern recognition was not so strong to recognize the opportunity. Okay, so I will give you the opportunity. So now you know there is a tactic. This is what I told you. So there is a tactic, there is a sequence of forcing moves which gives great advantage to black. So you can pause the video and try to find the tactic here. Okay, I don't know if you managed to find it. If you did, very well for you. So the right solution is a knight takes h3 with a check. He now has to take the knight, and you can just play rook to f4 with a double attack of the queen and unprotected bishop. He has to move away the queen. He cannot move the queen in a manner which will protect this bishop. And whatever he plays next, doesn't matter, I just take the bishop. And now I'm pawn up, but not just a pawn up, but now his king is exposed. I have my queen coming here. I don't see a way he can really stop it. I can bring my other rook. So now I have full attack and I'm a pawn up. So I think the evaluation, computer evaluation here is something like -4 or something. So it's winning position. So this was the tactics. Okay, I missed the tactics. I played rook to b8, and then my opponent gave me another chance to find the tactics. So again, he also didn't see it, and now again you can do the same thing because this doesn't changes anything. Okay, so this is another opportunity. And I don't know how much time did I think here. Let me see, 17. Okay, not much. Okay, I saw, I just couldn't find the tactics, so I just played queen to f5. Now I'm offering the exchange of queens here, and this is it. I was hoping for maybe for a better endgame after the queens are exchanged. There is only one semi-open file on the board. I can double my rooks on this semi-open file. And I can play this knight is okay, and it's not a bad piece. So it is knight against bishop. Bishop is stronger in the endgames in which you have pawns on the both sides of the boards. So of the board. So my knight is in principle weaker piece than his bishop, but I could live with it because I have other advantages, active rooks and so on. So I thought that let's go just exchange and let's go to the better endgame. He played c4, and now this is very interesting. So this structure with which I just forgot, I just didn't think about these pawns. I thought, okay, these pawns are protected, it's a strong structure, and I didn't think about this as weakness. And this was a mistake because it is weakness. And now you can see c4, and c5 is coming, and he'll just break my my pawn chain, and then this pawn on e5 will be weakness. So remember this pawn on e6 after I made this wrong move by capturing, and now this is hunting me again because this pawn after he breaks my pawn chain, and I cannot stop it paradoxically because of his double pawns. So even if I manage to stop this one pawn, somehow exchange it, there is another one coming. So I cannot stop him from breaking my pawn chain, and then this e5 pawn, which used to be e6 pawn, will be a permanent weakness in my position. Okay, so I saw his plans, and well, what can I do? I can just try to go for some kind of counterplay. So I've played g5 here, now attacking his bishop and trying to make his bishop at least least active as I can. So he played bishop to g3. And I played knight to h5, hitting his bishop, and in fact trying to kick this bishop away. this was the idea. Just let me see what did I have in mind after that. Okay, the idea was that if he moves his bishop, then this f2 is a weakness. So maybe I can exploit it with doubling rooks. I think this was kind of my idea. And this knight here is okay. I can easily remaneuver it, or I can bring it back. So it is on the rim, but I didn't think it was a weak piece. So in this position, he decided to exchange queens. I took it back, and he played c5. Now he's trying to break my pawn chain. And this is where I did wrong estimation. In fact, I didn't calculate this exactly. I should have calculated this move. In fact, I think in this position, this rook d8 is the most logical move. So he takes, I take, and I try to hold somehow on this pawn. Maybe I can even bring my king, let's say here. If I would to bring my king on e6, so imagine my king on e6. Sorry, he doesn't allow me. Interesting. Okay, so imagine my king just on e6. It will not be reachable to this bishop, which is a dark square bishop, and neither to rooks, because it will be hidden behind the pawns, and it will cover both pawns. So I thought this could be nice to have, and I could hold the position. And I made a mistake here. I made in-between move, which I often make. This is also a bad habit of mine. I just like these intermezzo moves, these in-between moves, or Schwitzenzug. And I didn't calculate this very well. I thought, yes, I did see this logical continuation, but I thought, okay, why not first exchange the bishop? I mean, I took the piece he has to take back, and now I can play this. And now at least I eliminated the bishop, and I have maybe some chances in the endgame, because I'm the one having, let's say it goes like this, then I'm the one having the passed pawn, and he doesn't have the passed pawn. So this was my idea. So I played this in between move. I took the bishop, and then he took, he didn't take like I thought he was, but he did calculate, and he's obviously very good calculator. So he played c takes d6. And now I cannot, and now he's just winning a pawn, because I cannot move away with my knight because of this. And now I was thinking here quite a lot. Just see, okay, I'm almost 7 minutes, because I just wanted to find a way this thing could work, but whatever I calculated, it failed. So this was the variation which would occur if I wasn't wanted to save my piece. He would just grab the pawn. I have to block it, and now he can give a check here. Typical idea. If I take the rook, then he queens. I cannot take the pawn because it's check. So the only way to defend is rook to f8, and this is also a typical idea, to have your opponent's rook in this kind of sandwich between two rooks. But now he can just, well, I calculated this, although the engine showed something else. So what can I do now? I can maybe try to something like this, defend this rook, but then he takes, I take, and he gives check. And now I cannot stop him from queening. If I take the rook, if I take his rook, he'll just queen. If I don't take his rook, then he'll take my rook. Or even simpler solution, which is shown me by the engine after the game, it was like, if he does this, I have to do this, and then he can immediately take the rook. I have to take back, and now I think this is winning. Rook to d1, and I cannot stop this pawn for queening. Let me just check. Yes. Okay, so this is another option. Anyway, I did calculate this, and I saw that I don't have any chance. I did consider some other moves with the knight, maybe to save it somehow. So with some fork or something, but nothing works here. So I had to just take the pawn, and now he took my knight, of course. Okay, and now if you count the pawns, the material is still equal, but it will not be equal for a long time. I think he... Well, in fact, it's interesting position, this one. If I had to evaluate this... The problem is that my rook here doesn't have much prospects after he plays g4. He can just pile up on this pawn, and... Let me just turn the engine on. I don't usually do this, but I'm just curious how the engine will evaluate, because I have a passed pawn. I'm the one having the passed pawn, and he doesn't have any immediate captures. Okay, he gives slight advantage to white for some reason. Okay, and this is probably because he can easily challenge my backward pawn, and I can have some trouble defending it. Okay, anyway, he played c4 here correctly, and now the problem is when he takes this pawn, then this pawn falls. So I think it's very difficult to hold on to material here. For example, if I played the rook here, he could play pawn, and what now? Yeah, there is no way, because when this pawn falls, then this pawn falls. So if I play something like this, take, takes, and then on the end of the variation, this pawn falls. So this is why white has an advantage, because I cannot hold my pawns here, unfortunately. So I try to bring my king now to the game, king g7. He continues c5, and now I did see this move, few moves before, and then at this moment I forgot about this move. But it doesn't matter, I cannot stop losing pawn now. So I played the d5 here, which would be a good move if he didn't have this g4. Because now I have both of my pawns covered, and I can just push one of the pawns later and have two connected central passed pawns, which will be a winning combination, if not for this not for this g4 move. And now what to do? I have to move away my rook, and he just takes the pawn. Okay, and now this pawn is under attack, so I have to think how to save this pawn, and I play d4. And now in this position I thought maybe I have some chances, I mean drawing chances or even winning chances, because this pawn is only 3 ways to promote. My king is closer to the center, his king is kind of cut off, we both have 2 rooks, so maybe there is still hope for something. But then rook takes g5 came, and I completely blundered this. I didn't see this. So this is the problem. This is the problem. When I play this, he took, and now he's double attacking, and when I save this pawn falls. So now he's still 2 pawns up. Could I have somehow stopped this from happening? I don't see how. Because wherever I move this rook, it's the same. So he'll take the pawn, and with double attack. I didn't see this double attack, and even if I did see, I don't know how would I stop it. So queen g5, now king f6, now I'm 2 pawns down, but still I have some hopes, because my king is close, and this pawn can give me some hope. Rook to f5, check, and now he's offering to exchange rooks, which I accept, because first of all I don't have any choice, I have to accept this. Even if I did have choice, I think this is good for me, because first of all I'm winning 1 pawn back, and second of all I think I have better chances with only 1 rook, and especially because my rook is behind the passed pawn. So this rook is more active than this rook. So this rook is passive. This rook has only one job, and this is to stop this pawn. And my rook supports this pawn and also can play on other ranks. So I think this was not a good decision from his part to force the exchange of rooks and give me pawn. So I gladly took this opportunity. Now I won 1 pawn, and my king is now very close to my passed pawn, which is now very, very promising. but I managed to mess it up anyway. So king to f2, now he's activating his king to e4, king to e2. What is the essence of this position? So he has to attack it with rook and with his king. But in this order, because if he attacks it first with the king and then with the rook, then I don't have to defend this twice. So he can attack this pawn twice, I can defend it twice, so it's okay. But if he attacks it twice in a way that he attacks first with the king and then with the rook, then I only have to defend it once. And for example, with the king, and then my rook is active. Or I can defend it with the rook, and then my king is active. So this is very, very promising if played correctly. Although the engine wouldn't agree, the engine would give advantage to white here, because the engine plays perfectly. But from a human perspective, I think black has some very nice chances here, especially given that you can see he only has 3 minutes on the clock, I have 5. Yes, it's 30-second increment, so it's a lot of time, but it's not infinite time, so the mistakes are likely to happen here. So I played, I pushed the pass pawn, d3, he played king to d2. And now, if you remember what I was saying just a moment ago, he's now attacking with his king and then with the rook. So he's attacking twice, but he cannot capture with the king as long as this pawn is guarded. So the only way he can hope to capture this pawn is if he attacks it with both rook and the king, but independently, let's say so. So the only way he can hope to win this pawn is to attack it from the side. So he has to play queen to c3, and now he's attacking it twice. And I was aware of all these ideas, but for some reason I just missed this, that he can play this king to c3. The correct move here was king to d4, and now there is no way he can win this pawn, because he cannot attack it with the king. He cannot give me check because I'm behind, and now my rook can wander. And this king holds the pawn. For example, let's just play some move for here. Okay, I can go here. I don't know, he can go here. I can now do with my rook whatever. Because if he moves his king, this is still guarded. And he cannot attack this twice. And then I can either go here and push it even more. So this simple, very simple idea and very simple move. By the way, this is the opposition. So you know always when you are in the end game with kings, when one king is playing another king, you are looking for the opposition. So from whichever angle you look, this is the most obvious and the most correct move, which I missed. And I played rook to f8, and now I'm completely done. He of course immediately played king to c3, and now you can see that this pawn is attacked twice and I cannot hold it. So I try to hold it, but it doesn't make much sense. Now he's just giving me check, and I have to abandon my pawn. So I played king to f4, which is principally wrong move. I should have gone here. Then he will just take. It's very sad situation when your king is separated from your pawn, and he managed to achieve this. So now this king can have no impact of this pawn. So I have nothing to hope for here. King to d2, rook to d4. I'm trying to activate my rook somehow. b4, and now he is activating his majority, and he will soon create passed pawn here. I cannot stop it. Rook to c4, rook to c1. I mean, I didn't play bad moves here, but it's hopeless. Whatever I play, he's winning. So I'm just trying something, and now he creates passed pawn. I'll just go quickly through it, and now I have to stop this passed pawn like this. He's now taking my pawn. I'm trying to bring the king to grab this pawn, but you can see that he has these two coming. Again, he can create passed pawn here, and I don't stand much chances. So g4, he's activating his kingside majority, and king to d6, king to d4. Now I have to grab this pawn. I don't have any choice. He accepts the exchange, and now we are in the pure pawn and king's endgame, and you can see that I have no chance. If I go this way, then he will just grab my pawn and promote here. If I go this way, he doesn't even need the king, then he can just push this pawn, create pass pawn, and promote. So the game just went on for a few moves. I was hoping that he will maybe make a mistake in the end, but it didn't happen, and now he can just promote. So I resigned here. Okay, this was the game. Like I said, I wasn't playing at my level, which I usually play this kind of long control games. I made some mistakes. First, this impatient f takes c6 move, which led me to a very difficult position, and then later in the end game I didn't calculate well. I was impatient to make an exchange. I made an in-between move, which wasn't well thought of, and then later on just a basic opposition, basic rules when playing with this kind of rook pawns and king endgame. I made some fundamental mistakes here, but nevertheless it was a good learning experience. I think I learned several stuffs, especially regarding this kind of structure. Let me just go quickly. So I learned that this is to be avoided by all costs, and well, I should be more careful with in-between moves and with applying basic endgame principles like opposition. Okay, this is it for today. Thank you very much for watching. Just on the end, a small announcement. You have noticed that I have passed 1000 subscribers, and I'm very excited. I'm very glad that my channel is getting the attention. It's like you know, it's dedicated to adult improvers in chess, and I hope that as an adult improver who did manage to improve significantly over last maybe year and a half or 2 years, I hope that I can offer some good advice, and I'm glad that people are recognizing and coming to my channel, and hopefully learn from me, at least maybe learn about chess, but more importantly learn about methods and how to learn and how to study chess. Of course, this was for most part thanks to Ben Johnson, who invited me on his Perpetual Chess podcast. This led many new subscribers to the channel and many new viewers, so welcome and stay tuned. I hope we will achieve something on this journey together. Stay well. Cheers.